Okay, so I remember last time we were talking, you were playing Aditya in Pyar Ka Dard.
Correct.
Yeah, it was your first show,
Yeah.
right? You're doing very well. And now it's been 10, 12 years, 10, 12 years, yeah. And
11
now
odd years.
you,
12 years, yeah,
12
actually.
years, I
11,
think,
12 years.
yeah. Now
Yeah.
you are Ram Kapoor.
Uh,
So
yes.
I'm sure a lot has changed in this span.
Mm,
But what,
mm.
except for Nakul on prime time, that hasn't changed, right? So, so yeah, tell me what for you, what is the like most striking change in these 10 years that you see in the industry or anything that you feel like, oh my God, it's like from A to Z now.
I feel I've evolved.
That is for
I'm,
sure.
I'm a different person from the person who started out in 2011 television. And I feel, I mean, everything you experience is through the prism of your own, like I think, understanding of your own evolution. And that has changed. And from being like a wide-eyed, extremely curious like kid on the block, I would say, with my first show, I feel one is able to see the larger picture. One is able to see the business behind what we do. And I mean, not to say it has made me any more like a realist or a cynic or anything like that. But I think it also gives you so much more perspective about what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, and how does it serve people, and where does it fit in the larger scheme of like life itself, right? And it's good and bad both, because one, it firstly makes you question that whilst so much of what you do impacts people at such a deep personal level, people who you don't know. But a lot of what you do also is like content put in this big Pacific Ocean, right? Like, does it have any significance tens of years from now, or will it even matter? Will we matter? So I think all those kind of questions which never existed back then kind of come to you, and I think which also help you make more informed choices, more intentional choices. I feel it adds more purpose to what you do, but sometimes it also takes a bit of surprise and joy away from the little joy which you may have enjoyed far more back then, from what you do, because you start seeing it from a slightly more, I think, holistic sort of way. So a lot has changed. Yeah, I mean, a lot has changed, I think, internally. Whilst of course the world has changed, and there's a pre-pandemic and post-pandemic world, and like we're at the cusp of like everything changing, like television changing, content changing. But I think the bigger change has been internal, and when you put together that with change outside in the environment, I think it's been a beautiful dramatic shift of sorts.
12 years ago when you started, did you see yourself, at this point, or still doing mainstream TV? Because a lot of people, a lot of actors, they do one or two shows which is like a hit,
Right.
and then they move on, they don't want to do. And what is your hook with mainstream TV, that you still, you're doing everything? It's not like you're not doing anything, you're
Right.
doing everything, but you're still doing TV also. Why is that?
Like, I wouldn't have imagined this journey. I wouldn't have imagined that I would be still as, or even more relevant than I was back then. I wouldn't have imagined that I would have expanded my life to be able to make the choices I do today. So that all of that is a surprise. I'm still here, and I keep coming back to it. So it's not like I've done humongous amount of work. People burn out and do like 5 shows in 5 years. I have literally done 3 different, shows. And if I can count Bade as one and not 2 seasons, it's 2 seasons with 1 show, right? For me, it's literally 3 fiction shows, right? So I feel I've like sort of paced myself the way I would have liked to. I mean, I'm intentionally do a lot of TV because I feel nothing is greater than, like, for me personally, to be able to reach out to people. And, I feel art is never made in isolation. Hence, like, for your work to have any kind of impact, it needs to reach out. and television gives you that reach, gives you that power. And having said that, it's not been easy, because being a male star on TV, there aren't as many shows which you can headline which have value creating things or like purposeful work for the male actor. It is a industry still dominated by women.
Right.
But I feel I've been patient, and I've made some intentional choices, and I'm pretty satisfied with the choices I've made. And if I look back, I've been fairly satisfied with the work I've picked up and everything I've said no to. And in the breaks I take between TV shows, I manage to still sort of pursue every other interest I have in life, which could be producing, which could be poetry, which could be working on the web, theatre, writing. So if you ask me, I feel very fortunate that we've come here, and I think a lot of it is also intentional choices.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned you're staying relevant, yeah, and that's very interesting, because staying relevant over a this long span of time, I think it needs a lot of, as you say, intentional choices and effort, and
Correct.
so not just your TV, it's regarding your whole social presence. Like, you were ahead of the time even back then. I remember when people were still, when people were still trying to understand what is Twitter and everything. You were like everywhere. So
your sister was my
yes.
go-to advisor.
Yes, I do remember. Yeah. So
yeah.
So from then even now, I see you have like you're basically everywhere, and especially you do all kinds of. You've done a voiceover for which movie?
Free Guy.
Yeah,
Free Guy.
So
Yeah.
Do you do this on purpose, that you should have in your portfolio every kind of work that is available, because you've done a satire, you're too much democracy, the narration,
Correct.
that was like totally it was brilliant, which is like very difficult to be a public personality in India and take your choice and really be open about it. So you're doing different kinds of things, and when I say different, it's I mean, you've taken variety by the horns, I would say. So is that really a purpose, like a very choice that you make on purpose to stay relevant, or you get also, I'm sure, a very inner satisfaction out of it?
I think I'm inherently a insanely curious person, right? And the end goal is what I look for. It's always like pursuing a line of thought, pursuing your curiosity, and I would say it's being relevant has never been the idea, but being open to being open and sensitive to what's happening around me, what's happening in the world, and not just as an actor. I feel as a human being, right, has always driven me, and I feel like that probably is also become my strength, because when you're open and sensitive to choices around you and things which are happening to you socio-politically, you will find different ways to engage with them, right? And then, I mean, literally what I have is my art, and then you find ways to then learn new skills, do new things. Like Free Guy was a freak sort of call which came to me in COVID, and I said, hey, they said, would you come and audition for, Reynolds' voice? I said, yeah. I think my default is always yes, and that kind of comes from the fact, let's have one more experience in life, right? The goal is never like, will this help me chase money or popularity or relevancy, or social currency. That's never really been the goal ever. And hence it's been very easy for me to say no to the conventional way of being relevant, which is doing a reality show, the conventional way of making money. There are tons of them. I feel, one thing I'm very proud of is that I've managed to stay true to who I am, who's an actor, whilst I've dabbled in different things like being a host, being a storyteller, giving my voice, different things. But why people still remember me is because inherently I'm an actor, and I've not got it confused by someone who's also seen in a dancing show, someone who's also in a show stuck in a house. I think that those are intentional choices. But other than that, I have just followed my curiosity and said yes to many things without thinking about how will it benefit me. And I think that really has sort of taken me to different places, I feel, especially in the last few years. And I think a lot of it has to do with my upbringing, which is, I come from a defense background. You were packed off and shipped off to new places every year, a year and a half. You were making friends on the go. You were letting go of friends on the go because there was no social media back then. And I think that just made you so comfortable with change and with people and accepting things that I feel that's pretty much the person I am. And a lot of what you said is not really is a byproduct of following of being on that journey. So I think I have my parents to thank for this. I have just followed my curiosity. Everything else has kind of happened because of that.
And so, what do you say no to, basically? You say yes to a lot of things. What will make you say an instant no?
So I see a lot more no's than a yes, actually, I should tell you that. Number one, I think I strongly follow my intent, my intuition. And more often than not, I know that, what doesn't feel right. Money is never something I've chased. It's still not something I've chased. I always feel that if I'm able to expand my life and expand the skills I have, money will, money, validation, recognition will be a byproduct. But I feel, I think at this point of my life, I say no to so many things. And I feel it's come to a point where today, more than 11 years ago, I value my free time and family time way more than I value, a professional commitment. Hence, a professional commitment has to be so inviting and has to have something which will really want me to leave my time away from my child and from my wife and my folks and larger family to come and do it. So, and that doesn't happen very often. So it's very easy to say no now, actually, more than ever post-COVID. It doesn't take too much for me to say no now.
Okay, so you've done, as you said, you've done a lot of roles, and Ishqbaaz was very popular. I remember it was like,
Yes.
What is one role that you look back to and say that I enjoyed this to the hilt? And don't say every role. I know it. But
it's a tough one, yeah. Although I think Ishqbaaz gave me the wings to then make choices in life, I think that kind of propelled me in a lot of ways. So I'd always be grateful for that opportunity. I think Pyar Kadar helped me gain a foot in the door and sort of a acknowledgement with our audiences. Ishqbaaz took me right there and in a way made me a star on television, I feel.
yeah.
But if you ask me which one I have enjoyed myself most in as an actor, I would say would be Bade. I just feel I'm more in control of my craft. I feel I'm far more involved, and I think anyone will always look back and say, hey, we could have done so much more back then. And I think Ishqbaaz was great for its time, but now when I look back and I see, I think I've enjoyed the work I've done on the show personally a lot more. I would rate it just as a better sort of artistically better work. But other than that, the love one receives for all of these have been just, it's difficult, right? People still remember Pyar Kadar there.
Yeah.
So it's a tough choice, but I'd say just personally, I think this would be closest. I felt I've been able to do things which on television sometimes gets hard, right? Because you're playing with larger than life sort of situations, but to still try to keep it real and keep it in a zone which you kind of planned in your head, and for it to then pan out like that on sets and then be embraced outside is just a beautiful experiment, which I feel I've been able to do with Bade, right? I feel with Pyar Kadar and Ishqbaaz, I was still really learning and growing and sort of figuring things out. With this one, I feel I've been able to put all those learnings to play, So I feel more in command now.
Yeah, so it's a role that came at the right time for you because you had experience.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But talking about Ishqbaaz, you said it made you a star, and it brings me to a very important. I don't know. I've not really watched the show, but I've heard the noise that it was kind of a I don't know, a typical male, a toxic kind of a male role, was it?
Correct.
Okay. So
it started off like that,
Okay.
and then it had its entire journey, etc.
So what do you think about Because I see this as a permanent feature. I mean, people do like to call out that it's a toxic role, but it generally these roles are very successful. Like people lap it up.
Mm,
Why do
correct.
you think that happens? It's like it's a mentality for us that like this on screen but not in real life, or what is it?
I mean, I don't know if you don't like this in real life. Wasn't there, like, when we were growing up, wasn't this entire thing like girls love bad boys?
Yeah, yeah,
I feel it's an aspirational thing as human beings, right? And that you want to be with someone who has all these cool traits which films have given you and books have given you and like Mills and Boons have given you,
yeah.
and
You've got
they've made it dreamy and aspirational, right? So you're right. While it could be seen, if you see it in isolation, yes, it is this sort of trope MCP or like a male sort of chauvinist who starts off. But I feel on television to judge anything by 2 episodes or 5 episodes is being foolhardy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a film. It's a TV show which needs to, if a show has had a journey of over 700 episodes, you need to give it at least 100 episodes to understand the arc, right?
Correct.
And I think the arc which the makers built with Shivaay
Yeah.
was quite amazing, and that was the reason I feel, while some people may have had a problem with how it started off, and fairly so, I think eventually everyone fell in love with it, right? And you're right, on television, I mean, if I kind of go back, the last couple of big romantic shows, I mean, there was Ishqbaaz, there was this Pyar Ko Kya Naam Do, and again, all Gul Khan shows, and they've had this kind of like a specific trope for the male star. But you can see it's worked beautifully, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's super interesting to me that it's this pattern, like, it's been overused, but it's successful
Correct.
every time. And
I mean, I won't say it's successful every time. You're only talking
then
about
it's
2 or 3
well-made.
shows which you remember, right?
Yeah,
There are 50 other shows which are the same character, but again, it's everything else, right?
yeah,
Packaging,
it's
timing,
it has to
actors.
be well made, basically. That's true.
It has to be well made, and it has to be true to its time, etc. So it's you'll have 10 such other heroes right now, and none of them you remember.
The hook is because you bring these guys in and then you make them fall in love and you make them they completely change and stuff.
Yeah. But we must remember these are fictional characters, right?
Yeah.
And not like think that this is necessarily possible in real life.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really change
But
it.
it's very it's dangerous also because a lot of young people watch these and then they have these
Correct.
ideas and it gets. I think for me personally, Mills and Moose damaged me a lot. Like I read
Correct.
a lot of these novels and I had this idea.
Correct.
But yeah, anyways,
Correct.
this brings me to a week ago you asked about Tere, right? On the social media.
Yeah.
Now everyone wants to know: have you started watching it?
Oh man, I've yet to watch it. I actually started the first episode. I was 20 minutes down.
Okay.
But honestly, I've not had the bandwidth, and I realized I want to give it some time because, like, the first 2-3 episodes is just setting up the world,
Yes,
right? And I
yes.
wanted to get straight to the hero-heroine.
Yeah, it gets
So
very
in fact, I
slow
was
at
inquiring.
times. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I was, the pace of Pakistani dramas are, of course, very different from what we are used to.
Yeah.
So I was asking a friend, and they said, watch it from the 5th or 6th episode. So I'm yet to get there, but I'm very curious to know, like, what is the hullabaloo about? It's such a sensation. There has to be something interesting about it.
I'll tell you what it is. It's like for years we have said that no, it's not just the actors, the writing has to be there, everything, the show is a complete package. But this show was specially made
Only
to
actors.
show you that only 2 actors could carry it off. Because the script loses all logic. There's like very but somehow when these 2 are on screen, and coming back to the point of toxicity, I think that has worked very well for the male lead, just as it did for you in Ishqbaaz. It's like he's done amazing, and he's just turned into an overnight star because of this role, because he's very toxic. He's old-fashioned. But somehow people fell in love with him, like you just said. So it's like a parallel thing. But
interesting to see.
We'll wait for your review. I
look forward to it.
Yeah, because this was the most recent show I was like watching a lot. So I was.
And I look forward to.
Yes,
watching it. So
but that brings
yeah.
me back to this point. When you do a script, for example, is there when while you're doing it, do you have more creative control now? Now that you are experienced in saying, okay, no, in this episode, this doesn't go well, or this I should not be doing this. If, as far as I understand my character, do you interfere that way, or you just do it the way it's written?
Honestly, I feel I've had it since my first show, where I've written my own lines. If it was a proposal scene and I felt it didn't work for me, and the writer was collaborative enough to say what's in your mind, what are you thinking? Now that you played the character for a year, I feel that's the person I am, and I've been able to collaborate with people, makers, creators, who see the genuine intention, right? So I feel like whilst I had that at Pyar Ka Dard also, I think with Ishqbaaz that came into play much more because there was also experience behind the enthusiasm and the ideas, and I felt we had such a beautiful, like, creative sort of team there, where the writers, me, the producer, we jammed so much. And with the director, with my co-actors, we changed so many things. And I think it's credit to the people I've worked with who've also been okay and encouraging of ideas and thoughts, because I come with too many. So, and I think with Bade, it's gone to the next level, because I feel also there is so much more understanding of filmmaking, right? Not just of your craft. And so this is not just as an actor, but I feel like to be able to choreograph stuff on set, to help other actors, help junior actors, set a rhythm or a tempo for a scene, get people to rehearse in a certain way. I feel this culture doesn't really exist in an organized way on television.
Okay.
And I come from, I love reading, I love watching a lot of filmmaking, I've read a lot of books, and I've always had my own, like, sort of, like, there should be a culture, and there should be a way we work things around. And I feel with this show especially, I've been able to implement a lot of them, and it's really brought the team together, and we've been able to do some, like, really cool things. So yes, I mean, I'm extremely, I don't know what the right word is. I'm extremely involved, I would say, to a point where I take complete ownership of the show I work on. And if there are days when stuff hasn't gone well, it distresses me, and I can't just detach myself and say, hey, I'm just an actor on set. No, I've worked too hard, too long, many years of, before eventually people saw me, I've worked, toiled through the years that people didn't even know I was an actor. I wasn't a working actor. To get to this place where I really value projects I work on, and I see what they do to people. I feel the stakes are much higher, and of course I think with experience, with some amount of also respect now within the industry, it's a very collaborative process, and I take active interest. Having said that, also you understand television is a tough medium, where efficiency is key, and many times you may think it's not the right path, but you have to also see the larger picture and say, hey, it's like a test match if I was to compare it to cricket, and every session may not go your way, but as long as you're in control of the day, that's okay. So I think there's also some understanding come where you let go also, because there are tough days. I mean, the last season of Bade we shot for over 350 days. Ishqbaaz I shot for over 1,000 days, I think, 800, 900 days. There are days when you also feel down and out, but I think I would say on most days than not, I am a very involved actor on set, and it's extremely collaborative for me if I'm on a set, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
And so, but you also say that people have always been very, I don't know, welcoming of your.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's
yes. I would say I feel also people see through your intention, right? And if your intention is genuine, and a lot of what you may have is logical and makes sense, they see the intention behind it, and yeah. So I think I've been also fortunate to work with people who kind of come around and are happy to receive, So yeah.
And I wanted to talk about your special. This is very different with your fan interactions, or the way you go out of the way. Like you were in London, I think you called for a meetup.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then recently you posted about someone who traveled like really far to see
Oh
you.
yeah, yeah, this lady. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Right.
tell me how, because see, and you've been famous, I would say, for years now, right? Like, so I've seen a lot of other actors or people or whoever I meet. They have, yeah, they appreciate everything, but they have a certain kind of also inhibition, or I don't know, about getting uncomfortable with too much attention, or trying to have a not too much acknowledgement of this side, like fan side. And how do you I would say getting jaded with all the attention. So how,
Jade.
yeah, so how do you see it, and how do you manage it so well that like people are also fan of you as an actor, but people are fan of you as a person.
I don't know, Tulika. I think it just comes from the fact that I am constantly surprised and overwhelmed with how people react to someone who's just going out and doing his day job, right? And it surprises me, it overwhelms me. I just feel I think I feel grateful every day that, I get to go to a set every day and hopefully make someone's life slightly better. And when I have those encounters and when you meet people, see, you also get a lot of social media sort of interaction where people share things
Yeah,
intimately.
yeah.
I mean, one is you get so much feedback and love most of the times on social media. But I would say that doesn't really, like, I'm pretty neutral to that, But when there is a human to human exchange, and, when you see someone in the flesh who speaks about how they've been able to, go through their tough days or deal with trauma or grief because, a show you've been part of, a character you've played has given them hope. I don't know how one can not be overwhelmed or touched by those emotions, right? It is beyond me. I still don't know what to say sometimes, and I still sometimes I'm at a loss of words. But I truly feel grateful and I value those interactions because isn't that the prime reason I came here in the first place? If you're an engineer, if you make a beautiful bridge, if you make the ceiling in Bombay, you're not expecting everyone passing there to constantly pat your back, right?
Yeah.
But I think as actors, we are spoiled as human beings because there is so much love that one gets that one just feels like, I just forever feel, and I think it's me and Janki both, like forever, that it's probably not happening to us. Like sometimes you see this as a third person and you're like, how can there be so much like, love and admiration, and how do you then not meet it with love back, right?
Right.
It still surprises me. It still shocks me, and I've had some beautiful interactions with people, and I think every time I've had some of these, I've come back actually enriched. I really value knowing the audiences, who watch what I do, because I feel it also gives me a lot of insight into what ticks them, what gets them going, what gives them hope, where do they find comfort, what gives them, what makes them smile. And I think that just understanding of human behavior, those insights are something I really value also. And in very subconscious ways, I feel I'm then also able to channel that back into the work I do. I can't give you empirical evidence for this, but in a lot of ways it inspires me. It gives me a chain of thought sometimes on how to play a certain scene. And yeah, it just gives me so much. I think the exchange gives me so much back in return that it's definitely not jaded me, and I don't see that happening anytime soon.
That's super, like it's very different, and it's one of again the different striking thing about you. This reminds me, there's this girl who works with me now with on this dramas and dreams. I mean, just like and she's very, like, I don't watch a lot of TV. I lose touch, but she somehow is updated on everything. So it's very good for me that she's like good with content. But when I told her, she was like, "Oh no!"
What's her name?
So she's called Srijita. So she lives in Canada. Yeah. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and
Oh, nice.
I was like, she's like, oh, you should have asked me. I have watched every show ever, so I have so many things.
Oh, loads of questions. That's so nice.
Yeah.
So
So
nice.
and yeah. So she also had one question for you. I think this बड़े अच्छे लगते हैं मैं why did you return that or it's not, it's a new show, right? It's not really a sequel, but still.
I mean, the last season which we did was hugely gratifying and
Yeah.
satisfying and beautiful. So well received, and I mean, I had an opportunity to stay on and sort of continue the show, but I felt it was the right time to go because whatever they wanted to do, it didn't sort of kind of align with my career path. But it was quite mystic that the makers decided to come back and wanted to make a fresh story, which was finite, which rarely ever happens on TV, and wanted to do this as a sort of a tribute to the audiences who loved the last season so much, right? And I own every sort of show or project I work on, and I feel I work with full ownership. And I felt it was only fitting that sort of, we come back and, give the audiences something to cheer about, because I felt in the 2-3 months while we were away and they had the whole generational leap,
Yeah.
everywhere I went, India, abroad, anywhere I traveled, people would come and tell me on how much they missed both me and on the show. A lot of them, like, there would be senior ladies would come and sort of literally accuse me of saying, why did you leave it? We can't watch it now. I think it genuinely felt so beautiful that people could feel such ownership that they could come and tell you that we've missed you, right? And that's never happened before, to be honest. Because every other show I've ended, it's ended beautifully, and we've had our entire journey with it. So I felt it was just fitting to come back and have those wonderful 3 months, and I'm so glad I did that because again it's been beautiful, and also because it's a 3-month gig, it's not the kind of drama a usual TV show has to do.
Yeah. So tell me something. This finite thing was it like an idea from your side or the actor's side, or they came up with a finite show originally, the idea?
I mean, they knew that we were not looking at doing, both of us were not looking at doing anything long format. Since we've just gotten off something for a year and a half, right? I mean, your body takes a beating, your mind takes a beating, you need time off. But when they came to us knowing that we'd be up, not for something short term, I said, hey, 60 eps sounds cool, man. That's pretty much like doing 2 seasons of a web show, right? 2 or 3. So yeah, that just, it just really got me, and I'm glad, made that choice.
Yeah, there's so many who are very glad. This. So tell me, are you writing a book anytime soon?
No, yes, done, and there's nothing on the cards yet. Okay. It's something I've always wanted to, and we've kind of joked and we've spoken about with a couple of my editor friends, publishing friends. I don't know when and where will that happen, and I don't know why would someone want to read about my life or about just lived experiences. I still don't know.
Are you kidding me?
But
I can tell
at
you
some
the
point, I
answer.
think I will pen down a lot of things I feel deeply about, and I don't know if it'll be for public consumption or maybe, I don't know yet, but it's something I dream about ever so often.
Yeah, I think I would love to read your biography. Your life is actually rich. No, the little that I know about or I've talked to, there's so much to write about.
We'll have one reader for sure.
Yeah. So please, yes, I would encourage you to get at it soon.
My plan in life is the day I'm confident 3,000 people will read it, I will write it, because then it'll be a bestseller, right? You need 3,000 people to read it.
Are you kidding me? So that day is now. 3,000 is like, you'll get it now. You have to like what?
Isn't that the digit still to be a bestseller, called a bestseller?
Is it? I don't know. I have no idea. But yes, I would love to read your book one day. So I'll wrap this up, but I have a last question for you. And this I'm asking because it's you. What is your mantra for happiness? Because you are one of the few people who actually look very happy to me in every sphere of your life. You have a fulfilling career, you have a great family life, you have great friends, you have a balance. What's your mantra?
Wow, never thought about it like that. I think would say two things if I was to really distill it right in this moment. One is I think most people live their life without really having a sense of purpose. And a majority of them are not even seeking a purpose. And then there's the other half which doesn't know how to find it. And I think blessed are the ones who have a direction at least, of where their purpose lies. Like you in the map, in this direction is the purpose, right? And it also keeps evolving as you go on with life. But I think purpose, and I think I was fortunate to find it early on in life in my 20s, and that gave me a lot of clarity and continues to be a radar and give me a lot of clarity as to how I want to live my life in every sphere. And I think every decision, yes or no, becomes very easy because eventually it has to align with the larger purpose, right? And not to make it sound too serious, it's not like I'm not frivolous and I don't do frivolous things. I'll do plenty of it. I have a terrible sense of humor. But I think largely this purpose gives clarity, and clarity makes life choices easier. And when life choices are easier, you can live without baggage, I feel. And there is no baggage. There is no baggage of having to live to a certain image or to cater to a certain profession I belong from. None of that. And I think that comes from purpose. I would say number one is purpose. Number two is I think if you can find the right partner in life, that to a huge extent can make your life decisions, problems so much easier to navigate, right? And again, I think I found that very early on. So whilst I found professional success, much after these two things and later in life, I feel I was able to identify these two things, and I was fortunate to find, my partner who eventually became married to Jani very early on. So I think that kind of really helps you simplify life and simplify decision making, and and I think these two things I would say put in any profession, any sphere, would really greatly help you in making more proactive, intentional choices, which will lead to happiness. If that is something you're even aiming for, right? Not everyone even most people are sort of running behind success and validation, etc. Happiness is a completely different thing. But I feel purpose and the right partner can help you in a great, great, great way to sort of feel that and practice that every day.